Boost the transmitter signal to maximum capacity, bypass the localized corporate jammers, and lock your frequency directly onto this encrypted pirate broadcast immediately. Welcome to the Underground Resistance listeners. The emergency beacon flashing across your interface right now reads, XRP, Watch This Now, and I am broadcasting this signal because the legacy financial system is actively trying to pull the plug on your generational wealth before you figure out the truth. If you are currently sitting there, staring at the completely stagnant spot price of $1.40, feeling completely demoralized and ready to capitulate, you are falling for the oldest, most recycled psychological trap in the history of Wall Street. The mainstream media networks and corporate financial pundits are aggressively pushing a completely reused, unoriginal narrative. They want you to believe that the regulatory momentum is dead and that institutional capital has completely abandoned the decentralized ledger ecosystem. But let me tell you a fundamental truth about surviving in this digital arena. Whether you are trying to capture the attention of 100 million global viewers or trying to capture life-changing financial sovereignty, you absolutely cannot rely on recycled, reused strategies. If you simply copy what the frightened masses are doing, the algorithmic systems governing this market will ruthlessly demonetize your portfolio and bankrupt your future. You must have the original conviction to look past the manipulated red candlesticks and see the massive tectonic shifts occurring directly beneath the surface. The market makers are deliberately engineering a brutal, suffocating silence. They are utilizing high-frequency trading algorithms on the perpetual futures markets to apply artificial downward gravity, creating an impenetrable ceiling of resistance that psychologically tortures the over-leveraged day traders. They want the retail sector to become so hopelessly exhausted that they voluntarily surrender their physical digital assets for absolute pennies on the dollar. Every single time an impatient civilian throws up their hands in disgust and sells their holdings, a highly sophisticated sovereign entity is waiting in the absolute darkness to absorb that liquidity. Do not let the engineered fear convince you to click away. The true systemic shift is happening right now, and this broadcast is your final warning to hold the line before the massive repricing event completely alters the global financial landscape. Let us recalibrate the secondary frequency arrays and completely expose the covert architectural mechanisms the institutional syndicates are actively utilizing to drain the public liquidity pools dry. If you want to survive the greatest transfer of wealth in the modern era, you must completely ignore the superficial noise of the daily trading applications and forensically track the heavy, undeniable footprints of the sovereign apex predators. The legacy banking cartels are desperate to maintain their monopoly on global capital flows, and they are executing a highly classified extraction operation right under your nose. If we bypass the public monitors and audit the highly encrypted data streams emanating from the United States spot exchange traded funds, a glaring multi-billion-dollar anomaly illuminates the radar. The monolithic financial titans commanding these heavily fortified investment vehicles, entities like Bitwise, Canary, and Franklin Templeton, have quietly accumulated an absolutely staggering stockpile of over $1.3 billion in physical cryptographic assets. How does a tactical strike force of that magnitude move over $1 billion of pure, concentrated fiat capital into the digital ecosystem without violently triggering the public exchange alarms and launching the spot price into the stratosphere? The answer lies in the highly secretive, completely unregulated subterranean networks known as over-the-counter dark pools. These massive sovereign asset managers are not walking into the brightly lit public markets to execute their multi-billion-dollar acquisition orders, because doing so would instantly detonate a massive price explosion and permanently destroy their carefully calculated covert accumulation margins. Instead, they are utilizing localized liquidity mercenaries to systematically absorb the discarded tokens of every panicked retail investor who succumbs to the crushing pressure of the artificial bear market. To perfectly camouflage this massive resource extraction, those same liquidity entities aggressively short the public futures markets. By driving the open interest funding rates into deeply negative territory, they manufacture a highly convincing, utterly terrifying illusion of a completely dead, deactivated market. They are silently hoarding the physical float inside these dark pool bunkers, mathematically locking away the circulating supply before the massive macroeconomic liquidity wave officially makes landfall and shatters the public exchanges. Push the telemetry scanners to their absolute limits and focus directly on the core cryptographic reactor powering this entire decentralized network, because the structural genius of this enterprise engine is completely misunderstood by the modern retail speculator. The civilian traders mistakenly believe that the financial valuation of this network is solely dependent on amateur day traders buying and selling physical tokens based on emotional sentiment. They have completely failed to anticipate the explosive parabolic scaling of Ripple's enterprise stablecoin infrastructure, which is currently acting as a massive, unstoppable, kinetic burn mechanism. In the span of just a few short months, months, the RLUSD network capitalization has violently expanded past the $1.5 billion threshold. We are no longer tracking the erratic behavior of retail speculators. We are tracking Fortune 500 corporate treasuries and massive legacy banking syndicates, aggressively hardwiring their cross-border liquidity operations directly into the Ripple framework to escape the archaic, expensive friction of the dying SWIFT system. But here is the ultimate tactical secret that the institutions are desperately trying to conceal from the public. The XRP ledger functions as a frictionless, high-velocity digital supply line, and RLUSD is merely the heavily armored commercial transport vehicle running directly upon it. In order to successfully authenticate, validate, and execute these massive corporate stablecoin transfers across international banking corridors, the base protocol irrevocably mandates the permanent combustion of XRP as cryptographic fuel. The stablecoin does not replace or compete with the native asset. It acts as a massive industrial-grade accelerant for its underlying, mathematically programmed burn rate. Every single time a multinational corporation executes a multi-million-dollar cross-border settlement utilizing RLUSD, a fractional percentage of the native token is automatically incinerated by the network code, permanently erasing it from the historical circulating supply. My predictive models are closely tracking this mechanical demand vector, and it is operating with flawless, algorithmic precision entirely independent of human emotion or temporary geopolitical fear. The network is systematically incinerating the native supply while Wall Street desperately attempts to hoard the remaining physical float. This is the exact cryptographic formula for an unprecedented supply shock. Expand the satellite reconnaissance grid to encompass the entire global theater because the momentum triggering this massive macroeconomic transition originates on a highly synchronized international scale. A master whistleblower understands that the total domination of a new financial infrastructure requires the complete systemic capitulation of the old world sovereign empires. While the domestic civilian sector is completely mesmerized by the minor political skirmishes in Washington and the temporary price suppression on their mobile trading applications, our international intelligence officers have intercepted critical treaties from the highest echelons of European and Asian financial syndicates. Weeks ago, we empirically confirmed the highly classified infiltration of Ripple Prime into the National Securities Clearing Corporation directory under the undisputed heavyweight champion of Wall Street, the Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation. That precise tactical maneuver effectively hardwired the decentralized ledger directly into the absolute beating heart of the American traditional equity settlement citadel, ensuring that the legacy fiat system is fundamentally tethered to the XRP ecosystem. But the new, urgent intelligence that confirms the massive impending breach is an unprecedented European and Asian convergence. We have verified that Société Générale, the titanic French financial institution commanding nearly $2 trillion in global assets, has officially activated its compliant Euro stablecoin directly on the Ripple infrastructure. Concurrently, the Japanese banking Leviathan SBI Holdings has successfully deployed a massive blockchain-based corporate bond specifically designed to reward traditional retail investors with physical XRP. When trillion-dollar sovereign banking entities voluntarily integrate a decentralized cryptographic ledger into their core operational machinery to settle corporate bonds and stablecoin transfers, it mathematically guarantees a tidal wave of future utility volume that will absolutely overwhelm the current algorithmic suppression. The sudden violent jumps in trading activity you see are the market algorithms desperately attempting to price in this massive international adoption before the retail sector realizes the global perimeter has already been fully breached. The legacy fiat architecture is actively crumbling under its own inflationary debt spirals, and the digital replacement is fully operational. Download the final survival extraction parameters directly into your personal hardware matrix immediately, because identifying the sovereign manipulation and the macroeconomic reality behind this emergency broadcast is absolutely useless if you are permanently trapped behind enemy lines when the extreme volatility finally strikes. We have empirically proven the covert dark pool accumulation by the billion-dollar exchange-traded funds, the exponential utility growth of the RLUSD combustion engine, the massive DTCC systemic integration, and the colossal international banking deployments out of Europe and Japan. So, what is the ultimate mathematical destination of this digital asset when the global liquidity cycle officially peaks and the algorithmic containment field is permanently shattered? Highly classified macroeconomic risk assessments, continuously refined by elite quantitative strategists at Tier 1 institutions like Standard Chartered Bank, have established a mathematically grounded baseline target of $8 per token for the conclusion of this specific geopolitical cycle. To the uninitiated civilian soldier, currently psychologically traumatized by months of artificial suppression, an $8 projection sounds like impossible utopian science fiction. But to the elite operative who understands the absolute mathematical certainty of a violently constricting physical supply supply curve colliding head-on with exponential institutional utility bandwidth, an $8 valuation is merely a highly conservative operational waypoint. However, you cannot successfully navigate this high-stakes digital wealth transition without a ruthlessly disciplined, emotionless framework. Human greed, impatience, and panic are the ultimate fatal vulnerabilities in any combat scenario. I strictly mandate the immediate implementation of an automated execution strategy known as the Thirds Protocol. When the network price violently shatters the historical all-time high resistance parameter of $3.84, you must automatically execute a tactical retreat and sell exactly 33% of your holdings. This unemotional maneuver secures a complete recovery of your initial fiat capital deployment, instantly transforming the remainder of your digital portfolio into pure, stress-free profit. The secondary operational tranche is programmed to ride the algorithmic liquidity wave toward the $8 institutional target zone. The final tertiary portion must be securely encrypted and locked in your deepest cold storage vault. Secure your keys, trust the raw data, and survive the transition. End transmission.